Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So welcome to Steps in Our Shoes first live broadcast. And yeah, so since it's the first one, I thought I'd just do a quick run through of the videos that we've talked about recently, and then some of the topics we got into, highlight some of the comments that have been made, and just going to make this a very short sort of test run to see if everything is working. So yeah, let's hop straight into it if we can. Okay, so looking at the channel, here are the videos that we've done recently. The first one that we did since we moved here was this: someone was held up at gunpoint. So we had that information that we picked up at JKG, that they had been held up and had a certain amount of money stolen from them. And that was really just to share that information, just to be aware, there is crime in this area. And yeah, there is crime in the area, and to be aware of that. And when we were choosing our place to live, we obviously made sure that we've got security guards to take care of the property. So yeah, that one was good. And then this one, $110 a month. So that was the cost of the place we lived when we came here in the pandemic. But we pointed out that one ties in with the lowest possible rent that you could get in the Philippines. Sorry, in this area. So if you were looking to rent very cheaply, then that would be the sort of lowest that we think you could get in this area. Obviously there is sort of dormitories and things, but we wanted to point that out at what is possible. There was a break-in while we were living there. Fortunately, it wasn't our house that got broken into, but someone did have money stolen. We didn't have a security on our gate. So yeah, again, a security issue. This one was the hidden shortcut between our neighborhood, which I've started to call Mountain Neighborhood, not because a lot of the street names are named after mountains, and we've pointed some of those out. And then as you cross that hidden shortcut into the next neighborhood, a lot of the street names are named after American states. And I do believe I actually said cities in one of the videos, but obviously it's Texas, Carolina, New York. They're all states and not cities. I think it was New York that threw me off. But yeah, and then carrying on down to Koreatown, they turn into World Rivers. So that was interesting, finding out all that information about the neighborhood. Then we did this one on Koreatown, and it's nice to look at the history of Koreatown. And I wanted to get into, like, we know why there's a big American community here. So why is there a big Korean community? So we got into that and how that could have arisen. Why not Chinese? Why not Japanese? Why Korean? Great that it's Korean. I love Korean food. So it's a fantastic area and some brilliant restaurants to explore down there. So we will be heading down there again. This one, we headed over to Candies, and we just wanted to explore that neighborhood where some of the streets, I forget what they're named after over there, but one of the streets was Savino Drive. I do remember that. This one, Real Angeles, we probing further into the neighborhood, and just exploring around close to where we live. This one was the popular one to date, where we heard that Flaming Bar and Owl's Nest were among the two oldest around. So we wanted to go and point those out because I'd been looking at old videos of Angeles, the ones on YouTube that people have posted from early 90s, late 80s, the sort of golden era, and looking at those photos. And I was trying to identify where was where and which ones were still around, which buildings, and it's really hard to see. So it was good to identify some of the old bars, and hopefully at some point I'll be able to understand a bit better about how those pictures fit together with what we have today. This one, we went down to visit Johnny's. He's a good barber, so I thought I'd just video that. This one, I wanted to think about, because when I was in China, I wasn't enjoying my job, so it was like I wanted to point out what might be the lowest possible that you monthly spend if you wanted to come and live in Angeles, because people might be saving for retirement but like hating their job, and actually they could afford to come here already. So I think that was a decent video, and we came to peso 40k, but then there were some comments like, what about healthcare and things like that, which are good points. I would put that in a sort of emergency fund, so you'd need to have an emergency fund for if anything like that happened, and then if you had ongoing issues which you had to pay for, then you'd need to factor that in as extra. In the UK, we have a different situation to, I think, in America and other countries where we've got free healthcare to a certain extent, right? So if something major happens, you can go back to the UK. Hopefully you're able to go back to the UK, as long as you've got some funds available to get you there, and then you can get treatment while you're there. Whereas in the US, it's obviously different, and you need to have the correct protocols in place for that if you were going to come on a tight budget. This one, we went into Pearl Harbor. We went over to the parade grounds, and an interesting story that I wanted to narrate whilst walking around the parade grounds was that of the attack after Pearl Harbor in 1941. So the attack on the Air Force Base, whereas the Pearl Harbor one is the famous one. And I hadn't really heard much about the one on the Air Force Base. It was good to get into that and some interesting history. And I actually was walking around, I was reading a little bit off my phone because I couldn't remember it all. So it wasn't the most fluent, but I'd done the research before, but when I was walking around, I was starting to feel a bit sad, talking about some of it, and the history and the death. So I'd kind of walked myself into a somber, and it was a bit sad by the end of it. This one, we had a barbecue. It didn't go to plan because we were looking for panga, but we ended up with a yellowfin tuna, and we overcooked it. It wasn't tasty in the least. And then this one was just a probe into the neighborhood. We got talking to identified one of the schools there, and the kids were all like, shout out, shout out. So that was nice to talk to them. This one, again, this was yesterday, so I wanted to point out those Wolfpack bars, which we did successfully. So good that those videos made it out. Getting back to some of the comments that we had, so I'm pleased with the comments that we received on the videos. Like, for example, we had Jennifer was interacting quite a bit. She made this good comment, exactly the comment that's really interesting. So Candy Towers, this was on the Candy Towers one, Opal Tower, and soon to another tower. So these were owned by Mark Savino, so thanks for pointing that out. And he's a famous car racer. And you mentioned that there was racing at Clark Speedway. I think that was last weekend. So great. People, I wouldn't have known about it if it hadn't have been for that comment. So thanks for sharing that. Another comment we had, James has been commenting. He did make a useful one on the latest one about Wolfpack. So thanks for that. And this one as well, like fresh meat available between 4 and 5 a.m. So great, and thanks for pointing that out. You have to get there early at Pam Pam Market if you're going to get the freshest fish, if you're going to get the freshest produce. And also thanks for the other comments. And another good comment I thought was this one by Ray, who's also made some other good comments, particularly to do with the history of the area and making it clear that you know a lot about the history in Angeles. So this was about the Owl's Nest and the Flaming Bar, and pointing out that Owl's Nest could have been older, but it discontinued its name for a certain period of time, and then then came back as Owl's Nest. However, that could also be said for Flaming Bar. So it's a case of choosing which one you prefer for that. Both old bars. Okay, guys. Yeah, just a quick stream today, just to check everything's working. Hopefully it is. And I think we're just going to leave it there. I can see that there's a few people. Todd saying good morning. Thanks, Todd. Cheryl, great to see you. So yeah, just a short one this morning, guys. Just to check everything's working, which I hope it is. All right, cheers, guys, and I'll catch you next time. So next week I'll be heading off to Taiwan, but we'll still get a few videos out before we do that. Okay, thanks for joining, guys. See you later. Thanks for supporting the channel.